What's your biggest fear? I choked on a piece of steak home alone a few months ago and had to give myself the Heimlich maneuver. It took 3 tries. I'll never forget my dog staring at me and the thought of my girlfriend coming home to find me dead on the floor of our apartment. Now I think about that every time I eat by myself, so choking to death alone is my greatest fear. This isn't my biggest fear, but damn it if that thought hasn't crossed my mind a few dozen times. Tangent. When I was probably like 6, I pretended to be choking at dinner one time and my parents came running from the kitchen in a panic. Needless to say, they weren't too thrilled. Flash forward just a couple weeks later, I actually did start choking on a piece of steak, and for a minute they just sat there and glared at me. Rightfully so, I'd say. The boy who cried wolf was never the same after that experience. Biggest fear is losing everything I have worked so hard for later in life. I watched my parents work hard, do everything right, build wealth, and then almost towards their 50s my father got sick, lost his job, and now struggle to make ends. They had to sell anything that had any value to them. Now they just go through life with seemingly little enjoyment because they had everything set and in a blink of an eye it was gone and probably never come back. I stockpile my money like crazy and live far below my means, and now have enough saved up to cover my living expenses for multiple years, but I keep imagining this nightmare scenario where I get laid off, or am between jobs, losing my health insurance, but before any new insurance can kick in, I get into a major car accident that totals my car and puts me in the hospital for surgery and physical therapy, and my medical bills suck my entire savings dry, forcing me to move back in with my parents. I hate that this is a legitimate possibility. It's fucked that you can do everything right and not just lose, but undo everything you've ever worked for. There was an old man in our vicinity who died like this. Apparently he died on the toilet and been there for weeks in the summer heat with closed windows and doors, so the smell was also not noticeable to the neighbors. The firemen and policemen brought the body down from the flat in 2 bags. Apparently it was already falling into several pieces. The smell was lingering in the apartment for a few days. One of my friends lives 2 floors down and he said it was unbearable. Had a neighbor that always had a candlestick night light in his window that was lit every night. I always walk my dog at night. After 2 nights in a row of his light not being on, I called our apartment manager. The manager told me he looked like he passed in the chair where he slept, so we hoped that he went in his sleep. On the flip side, my neighbors had the manager do a wellness check on me during the height of COVID. Even though I'm known for keeping my blinds closed 24/7 at times, people usually see me walk my dog, at least in the evenings. My dog had passed away. I've made it a point from then on to at least crack my blinds a little bit at some part of the time I'm awake, so they can see I'm alive. There is this musical piece by a composer that calls himself the caretaker that made a piece of the experience of dementia. It delves into the mind of people with the disease. Absolutely stunning but dark and very self-reflective. It is one of the most incredible musical compositions I have ever experienced. It's a 6.5-hour piece and you can listen to it on YouTube. Just be careful, especially if dementia and memory loss is something you fear. Edit. The piece is called Everywhere at the End of Time if anyone is interested. Memory loss is inevitable. Whenever you remember something, you're not simply recalling the event, you're recalling your memory of the event. This recollection changes the memory slightly each time you do it. I think it's important to view the world and yourself with some level of fluidity. You are who you are because of your unique perceptions at this moment. Those perceptions are influenced by your prior experiences, but you are no longer the person who experienced them. You've grown. It's not as sad or as scary that way. Rabies. You're fine one moment, and then the next day you have a headache. Turns out you got infected on that camping trip 6 years ago and it's been hiding in you ever since. Now that you have a headache, it's in your brain and you're already dead. There's next to nothing doctors can do except put you in a coma and say a prayer. But odds are nearly 100% that if you do survive that you're a vegetable or nearly one. You experience incredible pain, irrational hydrophobia, manic behavioral changes, and a total loss of motor control near the end. It's got to be one of the most humiliating, dehumanizing and terrifying ways to go, and it can happen just like that. Rabies is terrifying. Edit, link to actual terror. This is why it's important to find out if rabies is prevalent where you are and what animals carry it so that you can get vaccinated before symptoms set in. The onset of any symptoms means it's too late, but if you get the vaccine within a few hours of exposure, I think 24 usually, you're good. One of the biggest issues is bats. Their bites can be small enough that you might not even notice it. Any exposure to wild bats warrants a call to your doctor. Other animals might hurt you worse, but at least you know. You're much more likely to realize it if a raccoon or something bites you. Lol. Source: I was really scared of rabies for a while. Finally becoming myself in my late 20s/early 30s, finding what hobbies I like, finding out who I really am and what my interests are, has given me a lot of regret. I look at all the cool stuff I do with my life now, like electronics repair and lifting, and I'm really proud of myself. But then the thoughts creep in that I'll never be able to see how good I can actually get because I'm aging. I missed my prime and I'll never get another chance. I wasted so many years of my life being worried about shit I shouldn't have been worried about. I better move on from this post before I lose it. Lol. Edit. I am glad this resonates with so many people. It makes me feel not so crazy. I also am very thankful for the words of encouragement, and even though I don't always have the words to express exactly how I feel, I am having a much better day as a direct result of your kindness. Not being alive anymore. The finality. I'm not afraid of dying, the act of it, anyway. I'm not afraid of what comes next. I've not bothered myself with that one. What I'm afraid of is being done here one day, then gone, not able to do anything else. I cannot out it into better words. That's how suffocating the anxiety of being gone is for me. Maybe it would be better if I were religious and believed in an afterlife, but the best I can do is convince myself that I believe your personal energy spreads to other beautiful things in life when you pass. But the mind just being done, that is truly frightening to me. Came here looking for this. Sure, dying is awful and probably painful, but at least you're here while it's happening. Once you're gone, the thought of my mind, my memories, my thoughts, my ideas, my love, passion, mannerisms, faults, everything that makes me just gone from here forever. I can't imagine what's after this life and try not to stress out about it, but the main reason I don't want to die is because I enjoy living too much. It's all I've ever known. What gets me is the inevitability. Even when I freak out about not existing anymore, there's a part of my brain that still eventually stops me from believing it'll really happen. But it's the only thing I know for sure is going to happen to me in the future. Knowing that I can't do a damn thing to avoid that moment freaks me out. I can do things try to give me more distance from that moment. But it's slowly coming for me. I hate that the cliff is always at the end of my road and I can't turn away. As someone who also suffers from death anxiety, reading up on a wide range of beliefs and attitudes towards death helped. I didn't necessarily convert to religion, but I definitely became more open-minded, and it's good to gain different perspectives. Even from a purely logical viewpoint, we don't even understand a fraction of the universe. Eternal oblivion is definitely one possibility, but it's only one out of many. One of the things that calmed my anxiety is just the simple fact that no one can possibly know what happens when we die. We can make assumptions, but it's entirely outside of our comprehension. The universe is just so impossibly vast and complex. I can't help but feel that there's more to death than we think. Anyway, for the time being, make the most of the time you do have on this earth. You can't change the inevitable, but you can change your outlook towards it, and it makes a big difference. What's tough is there isn't much in popular culture to comfort you. Especially for younger folks, it's as existentially terrifying as it gets. But society largely ignored those fears. We don't really have anthems, movies, shows, celebrity figures offering guidance or support. Not many would admit the afterlife is anything but paradise. I let go of all my resentment and atheism smugness. It's a stupid debate that never changes minds, but I do wish we didn't just abandon these young kids. It's very similar for me. It's frightening that I won't be able to experience anything ever again or remember anything I've done. All my loved ones will be gone. In some ways all the things I've done won't matter, and I won't get to enjoy my favorite songs. I got over being afraid of the physical act of dying a while ago, but the fear of being dead forever is still very crippling sometimes, because I enjoy being here and doing stuff more often than not. If it's any consolation, a lot of people who end up with a debilitating injury still find ways to enjoy their lives. When Christopher Reeve had his accident and broke his neck, the doctors gave it to the family straight: he could either die now, in his sleep, or he could live without any control over his body and in need of round-the-clock care. They asked the family whether they should disconnect his breathing tube or not, and his mother started to say, "He wouldn't want to live like that. He's an athlete and an actor. If his body is gone, let's just let him go." And then Christopher's stepbrother pulled her aside and said, "Don't you think he'd like to see his son grow up, even if it's from a wheelchair?" And he was right. Reeve lived another 9 years and never missed a single little league game or school event, even though he had to be lifted into a wheelchair to get there. Saw someone post this, and it stayed with me for a long time. A lot of people ask me what my biggest fear is, or what scares me most, and I know they expect an answer like heights, or closed spaces, or people dressed like animals. But how do I tell them that when I was 17 I took a class called Relationships for Life and I learned that most people fall out of love for the same reasons they fell in it, that their lover's once endearing stubbornness has now become refusal to compromise, and their one-track mind is now immaturity, and their bad habits that you once adored is now money down the drain. Their spontaneity becomes reckless and irresponsible, and their feet up on your dash is no longer sexy, just another distraction in your busy life. Nothing saddens and scares me like the thought that I can become ugly to someone who once thought all the stars were in my eyes. Everybody said that it was a choice. It was a conscious commitment. It was something you choose to make work every day with a person who has chosen the same thing. They all said that at one point in their marriage, the feeling of love had vanished or faded and they weren't happy. They said feelings are always changing and you cannot build something that will last on such a shaky foundation. The married ones said that when things were bad, they chose to open the communication, chose to identify what broke and how to fix it, and chose to recreate something worth falling in love with. The divorced ones said they chose to walk away. Ever since that class, since that project, I never looked at relationships the same way. I understood why arranged marriages were successful. I discovered the difference in feelings and commitments. I've never gone for the person who makes my heart flutter or my head spin. I've chosen the people who were committed to choosing me, dedicated to finding something to adore even on the ugliest days. I no longer fear the day someone who swore I was their universe can no longer see the stars in my eyes, as long as they still choose to look until they find them again. This hits so close to my biggest fear. I'm so scared I'm going to fall in love, build a life with someone, and one day they'll walk in on a Tuesday morning, look at me from across the kitchen table, and tell me they don't love me anymore. Edit. Part of this is I've never had anything permanent in my life. Most people don't stay in my life more than a year because I tend to attract narcissists, or they never stay more than just casual acquaintances. I don't have anyone close to me. Both of my parents were abusive in their own ways and dropped me off at my grandparents' most of the time, or just straight up ignored me for my siblings. My siblings and I were also pitted against each other. I'm scared once I finally have something sturdy and feel secure, it will shatter and it'll break me. That has been my life. I very much feel like my end will come in the same way as that woman who died while wrapping gifts for her friends ... and was found like 3 years later because no one knew she was gone. I have to instigate every conversation and almost beg for the opportunity to watch a movie or play a game with these people. Do not beg anymore, they are not worth it. I can enjoy movies on my own. They have been to my house once, and that was to drop me off. I'm afraid I'm going to die very much alone, without love, without the security that my cat will die of starvation, and without anyone who I think I would even notice my absence. And the worst part is, I've kind of accepted it. I ended up making sort of a goodbye note to anyone who finds me or cares enough to help clean my place after I'm gone. Taped it to a wall. Basically, it's my goodbye and a heads up that my things are all going to charity, so if they wanted anything, grab it quick. Losing my husband is mine. I fear losing my family members too, but losing my husband would just knock me down so hard I don't know that I would ever get up again. He is everything to me and brings so much joy and purpose to my life. He makes all of my dreams and whims come true. Without him I would be so empty and alone and lost. Eventually, I would probably recover from losing him, but that would take me a very long time and I might not make it through that time. This isn't so much my biggest fear as it is my most irrational fear. I'm afraid of accidentally plagiarizing something, not by having seen it in the past and accidentally copying what I remember, but via the infinite monkey theorem. Imagine writing an essay for school and by pure random chance you write exactly the same paragraph as someone else. How do you prove you didn't copy it? You're basically fucked. I think that's what's scary to me. The concept that you could do nothing wrong and by winning the least lucky lottery on earth get fucked without any possibility of indication. Spent a long time there myself. The things that helped me were the question, when you talk to a stranger the way you talk to yourself, why not? I realized I was being a bully to myself my whole life. Also, and you might hear this a lot on Reddit, but meditation, specifically for me what I heard framed as loving kindness meditation. I couldn't actually focus it on myself at first. I would balk at the idea that I should have love. What did work and allowed me to see a better way was using it for others first. I have had several driving jobs, so spending a lot of time on the road, it's easy to get frustrated at other drivers. I started to frame every car as if it was being driven by my best friend. I do not have an actual best friend, but I can imagine. Suddenly I was generous and understanding. Oh, there goes Kevin again. Guess he's late for work. Goofball, better hurry up, etc., etc. We've all got our demons though. I hope you can learn that you don't have to help them by devoting mental space to them. To have to work to survive all my life and not being able to live and enjoy life before I die. A lot of people just simply have to work to pay bills and get something to eat. Even if you own a house, for many people it's just about making a mortgage payment. I have seen so many people work to the bone, and even after retirement age when everything is paid off they are too old or too worn out to really live and do the things they love. At that point they have lost interest or not in a good enough physical or mental condition to really enjoy life. I think it's sad that life for many has become simply doing what must be done to earn a living and not having options. Increasingly so because of the system the majority of humanity has succumbed to that only works for a few people that are already in wealth. I see myself falling into the same trap and not being able to really enjoy and explore life to its depths. It's my fear that this will perpetuate until I die and would have spent my life simply surviving. I was so close once. I lived alone. I had the week off, so no one would miss me for a while. And I had a brand new bottle of painkillers. I almost did it. And then I realized no one would come by to feed my cat. Sweetheart, I'm so sorry you feel this way. And if I had a magic wand, you wouldn't. It's hard being down there, I know. Find a reason, even a small one, not to do it. If you haven't already, please find someone to talk to. I promise that this helps. It can take a while, but it does. Find someone you can trust to be honest but gentle, because you don't need brutal honesty right now. Maybe later. Therapist, if that's an option. School advisor, maybe. Religious leader. If you attend a church, there are phone lines you can call for help. There are apps for chatting with therapists if you don't want to speak. If you're in the States, you can call 211 and ask for local resources. I think 211 even has an app that you can search.